Hello everyone and welcome to a new video of Your Polyglot Academy. Now today I'm going to cover lessons 37 and 38 of our series on how to learn French in 50 days with Esimal. So let's start. Now first we're going to start with lesson 37, and as always there's going to be a dialogue, so please make sure to listen to it twice, and if you're ready, let's go. Now here's the dialogue for lesson 37.
37e leçon.
J'ai réfléchi à la question du loyer.
Ça fait 2 mois que je cherche un appartement à louer.
As-tu trouvé quelque chose?
Pas encore. C'est plus compliqué que ça. Et ce n'est pas fini. J'ai cherché d'abord dans l'arrondissement où j'ai grandi, mais sans succès. Ensuite, j'ai élargi mes recherches et j'ai aussi contacté un agent immobilier. Je n'ai pas réussi à le joindre par téléphone, mais j'ai rempli le formulaire sur son site et j'ai fourni tous les renseignements nécessaires. Il m'a rappelé le lendemain et nous avons choisi plusieurs propriétés à visiter.
Et alors, tu as trouvé ton bonheur?
Il y a 2 appartes dans mes moyens. L'un est plus petit que l'autre, mais il est aussi plus cher parce qu'il donne sur une cour intérieure très calme. L'autre, au premier étage, est moins intéressant. Il est plus grand, mais aussi plus bruyant. Il y en a un troisième, le plus spacieux, au dernier étage. Il est plus grand que tous les autres et beaucoup plus joli, avec une énorme terrasse tout autour et rien au-dessus. Mais malheureusement, le loyer est prohibitif. Il est plus élevé que mon salaire mensuel.
Eh oui, mon ami, c'est difficile, mais il faut vivre au-dessous de ses moyens. Mais je peux t'aider peut-être.
En effet, j'ai réfléchi sérieusement à la question. Est-ce que tu peux garantir mon loyer?
So, did you understand everything, or at least most of it? Well, I hope so. In case you would like to know the translation of some of the most important key phrases from the dialogue, or maybe of some vocabulary that you didn't get from the first listening, then here's the translation of the dialogue. So it's the 37th lesson, and the title is I've Thought About the Question of Rent. I've been looking for a flat to rent for 2 months. Have you found something? Not yet. It's more complicated than that, and it's not over. I looked first in the neighborhood where I grew up, but with no success. Then I broadened my search, and I also contacted an estate agent. I didn't manage to get him on the phone, but I filled in the form on his site, and I supplied all the necessary information. He called me back the next day, and we chose several properties to visit. Well, did you find what you were looking for? There are 2 flats that I can afford. One is smaller than the other, but it's also more expensive because it gives onto a very calm interior courtyard. The other, on the first floor, is less interesting. It is bigger but also noisier. There is a third one, the roomiest, on the last floor. It's bigger than all the others, and much prettier, with a huge terrace all around and nothing above. But unfortunately, the rent is prohibitive. It's higher than my monthly salary. Oh yes, my friend, it's hard, but you have to live below your means. But perhaps I can help you. Indeed, I've thought seriously about the question, can you guarantee my rent? So that was the dialogue for today's lesson. So, as always, there's going to be some of the most important remarks. So, I'm also going to cover that in the notes. Now, on the first one, un arrondissement, which means a neighborhood, see also lesson 8, comes from the group 2 verb arrondir, which means to round off, and rond, round. The ment suffix, which generally denotes an adverb, is also found in certain nouns derived from action verbs from all 3 groups. For example, juger, to judge, becomes un jugement, a judgment. Also notice the difference in spelling. And avertir, to warn, becomes un avertissement, a warning. Now, the difference between ment adverbs and nouns is also easy to spot because the latter are usually preceded by a definite or indefinite article. So, if you're not having that, then you know you're talking about an adverb. Now, on the second note, the perfect tense of group 2 verbs, regular ending in il, is usually constructed with avoir and the past participle, formed by dropping the final from the infinitive. For example, grandir, to grow up, would become grandi. J'ai grandi, tu as grandi, il elle a grandi, nous avons grandi, vous avez grandi, ils elles ont grandi. Simple. Now, on the third note, Continuing the series of nouns that can be plural in French but not in English, la recherche has two meanings. Research, in which case the noun is usually singular and has a definite article. So for example, la recherche scientifique est très important. Scientific research is very important. And, more generally, a search or an investigation. In which case, it takes an indefinite article but can also be plural. Nous allons continuer nos recherches. We are going to keep searching. Now for web browsing, see lesson 27, we use un moteur de recherche, literally a search engine. Now on the fourth remark, le bonheur means happiness or good fortune. Après 3 mariages, elle a enfin trouvé le bonheur, être seule. After 3 marriages, she finally found happiness, being alone. Now the word can also be used in idiomatic expressions, such as est-ce que tu as trouvé ton bonheur? Have you found what you wanted or were looking for? Now, the opposite of le bonheur would be le malheur, which means unhappiness or misfortune. Also, try to remember this proverb. Un malheur n'arrive jamais seul. Misfortunes never come on their own. Or, more colloquially, it never rains, but it pours. Now, on the fifth note, un appartement, a flat or an apartment, also notice again the difference in spelling, is one of the multisyllabic words that are frequently abbreviated in spoken French, which was also a phenomenon that we could observe in lesson 17, note 7. It becomes un appart with the final T pronounced, so un appart. Now, on the sixth note, les moyens in the singular is the way or the means. Je connais un bon moyen d'apprendre une langue. I know a good way to learn a language. Now, in the plural, it is also equivalent to the singular English noun means, in other words, money. Nous n'avons pas les moyens d'aller en vacances cette année. We don't have the means, or in this case, we don't have the money to go on holiday this year. Now, in this case, avoir les moyens is also a good paraphrase for to afford, which has no direct equivalent in French. So you might now know how to use that expression as well. Now, on the seventh note, by now, you should also be familiar with the comparatives of superiority and inferiority, where more is translated by plus and less by moins. Now, in both cases, the conjunction then is que. So now you would know how to form such sentences in French. Here's an example. Lyon est plus grand que Toulouse, mais plus petite que Paris. Lyon is bigger than Toulouse, but smaller than Paris. Now, to form the superlative, simply put the definite article le or la for the singular, now depending on the gender of the noun, and le for the plural before plus or moins. So that's simply the way how you form them. Now, for the eighth note, dessus and dessous mean above and below or beneath, respectively. They are used in different forms, but here we see them with au as adverbs. J'habite au 3e étage et ma copine habite à l'étage au-dessus. I live on the 3rd floor and my girlfriend lives on the floor above. Or as in this other sentence, la température est 2 degrés au-dessous de zéro. The temperature is 2 degrees below zero. Now you also probably have recognized the adjective sous, which means under. Now in some cases, au-dessous is also replaced with en dessous, but the meaning is exactly the same, so don't worry too much about that. Now, I hope that you could understand the notes, and if that's the case, then please try to do the exercises. So this is exercise number 1.
Exercice 1. Traduisez.
Mon père a garanti mon loyer. J'ai vraiment de la chance.
J'ai oublié mon manteau, et maintenant il pleut.
Je sais seulement qu'il a grandi dans le 2e arrondissement de Marseille.
Tu as les moyens de prendre des vacances cette année?
Est-ce que tu as réussi à joindre l'agent immobilier par téléphone?
And this is exercise number 2 where you'll have to fill in the missing words. Now, if you have any questions or any doubts on whatever, may it be grammatical topic or some vocabulary, then please make sure to express it in the comment section. And if you're not having any troubles whatsoever, then please, let's continue with lesson 38. So lesson 38 is going to be pretty similar. We're going to have a dialogue and then some notes and also exercises on the vocabulary so that you can kind of internalize the new expressions that were introduced in the dialogue. So, are you ready? If that's the case, then let's start. Here's the dialogue for lesson 38.
38e leçon.
C'est de la part de qui?
Bonjour. J'essaie de joindre Alain Bolland. Est-il au bureau aujourd'hui?
Je ne sais pas, je vais vérifier. C'est de la part de qui?
Dites-lui que Madame Lacroix veut lui parler. Je l'ai rencontré au salon de l'automobile et j'ai pris sa carte de visite. J'ai appris qu'il est le nouveau directeur commercial pour l'Île-de-France. Il m'a dit de l'appeler en début de semaine pour organiser une visite de vos locaux.
Je vous mets en attente. Ne quittez pas, je vous prie. Je regrette, mais son poste ne répond pas. Il doit être à l'extérieur. Je ne suis pas surpris parce que nous avons plein de travail en ce moment et l'agenda de M. Bolland est plein. Voulez-vous laisser un message?
Pouvez-vous lui demander de me recontacter plus tard dans la journée?
Entendu. Il a vos coordonnées, je présume?
Normalement, oui. Mais je vais vous donner un numéro où il peut me trouver à tout moment. C'est le 07 28 91 12. Attendez, excusez-moi. C'est le 02 à la fin. Si je ne réponds pas, c'est parce que je suis en réunion.
J'ai compris. Je lui laisse votre message. Au revoir et merci de votre appel.
Un grand merci pour votre coopération.
So, have you understood everything, or at least most of it? Well, I hope so. In case you would like to know the meaning of some of the vocabulary that was mentioned in the dialogue, then here's a translation of the dialogue. So it's the 38th lesson, and the title is Who's Calling? Good morning. I'm trying to reach Alain Bolland. Is he at the office today? I don't know. I'll check. Who's calling? Tell him that Mrs. Lacroix wants to speak with him. I met him at the motor show and I took his business card. I learned that he's the new sales manager for the Île-de-France, literally island of France. He told me to call him at the beginning of the week to organize a visit of your offices. I'm putting you on hold. Please hold the line. I'm sorry, but his extension is not answering. He must be out of the office. I'm not surprised because we have loads of work at the moment and Mr. Bolland's diary is full. Do you want to leave a message? Can you ask him to contact me again later in the day? Of course. He has your contact details, I presume. He should do, but I'm going to give you a number there. He can get me at any time. It's 07289112. Wait, excuse me. It's 02 at the end. If I don't answer, it's because I'm in a meeting. I've understood. I'll leave him your message. Goodbye and thank you for calling. Thank you very much for your cooperation. So this was the translation of the dialogue. Now, if you're ready, you can continue with the notes, which are also fundamental for understanding kind of some grammatical explanation, also some of the vocabulary. Now, on the first note, une part is a piece or a slice. Voulez-vous une part de gâteau au chocolat? Do you want a piece of chocolate cake? Now, in a telephone conversation, however, the expression de la part de identifies the person on behalf of whom the call is being placed. Now, the standard question is c'est de la part de qui, equivalent in register to who shall I say is calling. Now, giving one's name is a sufficient response. Caller can also say, for example, je l'appelle de la part de Michel, in which case the caller may be Michelle herself or someone calling on her behalf. Now, on the second note, here is the perfect tense of certain group 3 verbs ending in re, such as prendre, to take, and its derivatives. J'ai pris, tu as pris, il, elle a pris, nous avons pris, vous avez pris, ils, elles ont pris. Now, on the third note, another set of re verbs, including dire, to say, lire, to read, and écrire, to write, form their past participle with a silent and also silent T. J'ai dit, tu as dit, il, elle a dit, nous avons dit, vous avez dit, ils, elles ont dit. Now, naturally, any verbs derived from three, such as contredire, to contradict, are also conjugated in the same way. So that might be pretty straightforward to remember. On the fourth note, the adjective local has the same meaning as in English. Un guide local, a local guide. Now, as a noun, however, it means premises. In contrast to English, it can be either singular or plural. en local commercial de locaux commerciaux, commercial premises. Now, the difference is merely a question of size, with the plural being used simply for a larger facility. And also remember that nouns and adjectives ending in al from the plural with o, which is something that we observed, I think, in lesson 35, where we reviewed all the types of plural. On the fifth note, we are familiar with Je vous en prie, she also lesson 31 and 35. Now, in very formal contexts, however, the en can be dropped, particularly if the expression appears at the end of the sentence. Entrez, je vous en prie, please come in. You're also unlikely to use je vous prie, and the tu form is very rarely used. However, you will probably hear it in certain circumstances, notable on the phone. Now, on the sixth note, a few nouns have two genders, each with a different meaning. One of the most common is poste. Une poste is a post office, lesson 29-35. But un poste means a position or job. Il quitte le poste de directeur en mai. He's leaving the position of director in May. Now, the masculine word also means a switchboard extension in the telephone system. Le poste ne répond pas. The extension is not answering. You can also see why we insist on memorizing not only the meaning of nouns, but also their gender, so that you do not kind of confuse yourself in this way. Now, on the seventh note, the adjective plein, feminine plein, means full or busy. Think also of plenty. Use an example. Les hôtels sont toujours pleins en été. The hotels are always full in summer. The invariable expression plein de also means full of and, more broadly, lots of. Elle a plein de choses à faire. She has lots to do. On the eighth note, entendu is the past participle of entendre, to hear. J'ai entendu un bruit. I heard a noise. But the word can be used alone in response to a statement that you acknowledge or agree with. Venez tôt demain, entendu. Come early tomorrow. Will do, or understood. Of course, the actual translation will also depend on the context, but in every case, avoid the French habit of saying okay instead of entendu. On the ninth note, les coordonnées, coordinates, is the geographical term for distances or numbers identifying a position. Now, by extension, it is commonly used to refer to a person's contact details in the general sense. Thus, donnez-moi vos coordonnées can be translated as give me your address or your contact details or your name and number, etc. Now, if further details are needed, an adjective can be added. For instance, donnez-moi vos coordonnées téléphoniques ou bancaires if you want the person's phone number or bank details. So, I hope that you could enjoy or at least understand the notes. I also hope that you kind of looked at the translation of the dialogue. If that's the case, then please try to do the exercises which kind of encompass these new vocabulary. So, this is exercise number 1.
Exercice 1. Traduisez.
Tu ne reçois plus de mails parce que ta boîte est pleine.
Je sais que Madame Doyon est en réunion, mais puis-je laisser un message ?
Vous pouvez la joindre à tout moment au 06 82 92 73.
C'est de la part de qui? Ah, c'est toi. Ne quitte pas.
J'ai plein de travail en ce moment, à cause du salon de l'automobile.
And this is exercise number 2 where you have to fill in missing words. Now, if you have any questions, any doubts or whatsoever, then please make sure to express it in the comment section. And if that's not the case, then I'm very glad. I'm also glad that you enjoyed and followed this lesson. And if you have any wishes or anything else, then just write me a comment or something like that. Other than that, have a nice day and I will see you next time. Goodbye.